Welcome to the session on activities related to understanding speaking skills. Speaking activities on articulation. This can greatly improve clarity, pronunciation, and overall speech delivery. These activities are designed to be engaging and effective for individuals looking to enhance their articulation skills, whether for professional communication, public speaking, language learning, or personal development. Here are several activities tailored for different skill levels and objectives. Tongue twisters objective. This improves pronunciation and agility of the tongue. Activity. One can start with the simple tongue twisters and gradually move to more complex ones. We can practice them slowly at first, then increase the speed while maintaining clarity. For example, she sells. For example, she sells seashells by the seashore. Second one, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Mirror practice. This enhances clarity of speech and correct mouth movements. Activity. One should stand in front of a mirror and observe the movements of your tongue and mouth as you speak. Focus on forming each sound clearly and correctly. Practice with a list of words that target specific sounds you find challenging. Phonetic practice. This improves accuracy of sound production. Activity. Use the International Phonetic Alphabet to learn the correct production of sounds. Practice individual sounds, then syllables, and finally words that contain those sounds. Record and listen to your practice to identify areas of improvement. Reading aloud. This develops fluent speech and proper intonation. Activity. Select a piece of text and read it aloud. Focus on articulating each word clearly and using appropriate intonation. For added challenge, use text with a variety of punctuation marks to practice changing intonation and rhythm. You can initially start with reading the newspaper aloud, standing in front of the media or standing in front of anybody. Shadow speaking. This improves speech rhythm, pace, and intonation. Listen to recordings of native speakers or proficient speakers of the language you are learning. Try to mimic their way of speaking as closely as possible, paying attention to their intonation, rhythm, and how they articulate words. For this, you can even watch English news channels or English movies or even English songs. Speech transcription. This enhances listening and articulation skills. You should listen to a short speech or dialogue and transcribe it. Then practice saying the same transcribed text out loud, focusing on articulating each word as it was originally spoken. Role playing. In role playing, you have to practice clear articulation in conversational contexts. You should engage in role playing exercises where you adopt different roles and participate in conversations. This helps in practicing articulation in a more dynamic and less controlled environment than formal speech practice. Articulation exercises. They strengthen your muscles involved in speech. Perform specific exercises designed to strengthen the tongue, jaw, and lips. This can include exercises like tongue stretches, lip trills, and jaw exercises to improve mobility and control. You can also record yourself speaking or participate in a speaking sessions with a peer or mentor. Later, use the feedback received to focus on your practice on areas that need improvement. You can also depend on technology-assisted practice. You can utilize technology for targeted articulation practice. Activity. Use speech analysis software or apps that provide feedback on pronunciation, pace, and clarity. These tools can offer instant feedback and track progress over time. Each of these activities can be adapted to suit individual needs and goals. It's important to start with activities that match your current level of proficiency and gradually increase the difficulty as your articulation improves. Consistent practice coupled with feedback and reflection will lead to noticeable improvements in articulation skills. Now let us proceed towards speaking activities on clarity. This is essential for effective communication. Clarity in speech ensures that the message is understood by the listener without confusion or misunderstanding. Here are detailed activities designed to enhance clarity in speech, suitable for various levels of learners and different contexts such as language learning, public speaking, and professional communication. Slow down speaking speed. One should reduce the speed of speech to improve enunciation. You have to practice speaking at a slower pace than usual. Use a timer to stretch sentences over longer periods, focusing on clearly articulating each word. Record and listen back to identify rush words and sounds. Use of pauses. We should utilize pauses to enhance understanding and processing time. You have to integrate deliberate pauses into speech, especially at punctuation marks or between ideas. Practice reading aloud or delivering a speech with marked pauses, noticing how it aids in clarity of the message. Pronunciation drills. This improves the accuracy of pronouncing difficult sounds or words. Identify sounds or words that are challenging to pronounce. Use drills to practice these sounds in isolation, then in words, and finally in sentences. Use resources like pronunciation guides or work with a speech coach for targeted practice. Clear consonant sounds. Ensure consonants are pronounced clearly and not blended or muted. Therefore, you have to focus on consonant sounds at the beginning and end of the words, practicing them in isolation and then in context. Exercises like repeating pa, ta, ka sounds in varying combinations can help strengthen articulation. Vowel sound variation. You have to distinguish and correctly produce different vowel sounds. Work on vowel sounds, particularly those that are similar but distinct. Example, ship versus sheep. Practice these sounds in pairs to understand the subtle differences in mouth positioning and sound production. Emphasize keywords. Highlight main ideas or important information through emphasis. Practice speeches or dialogues, choosing specific words to emphasize. This can be done through changes in pitch, volume, or pace. You can reflect on how emphasis changes the message's perceived importance or meaning. Feedback loop. You have to obtain constructive feedback on clarity from listeners. Engage in speaking exercises with peers or mentors, asking for specific feedback on the clarity of speech. Use the feedback to focus on areas needing improvement. Record and analyze. Self-assess clarity of speech through recording and analysis. Record speeches or conversations and listen back to evaluate clarity. Pay attention to common pronunciation errors, the effectiveness of pauses, and the overall pace. Stress and intonation patterns. Use stress and intonation effectively to convey meaning. Practice sentences with varying stress and intonation patterns to see how they affect meaning. Experiment with stressing different words in a sentence to observe changes in meaning or listener perception. Articulation exercises. Strengthen mouth and tongue muscles for clear articulation. Perform specific articulation exercises such as tongue twisters, lip trails, and jaw exercises. Focus on exercises that target the precise movements needed for clear speech production. Incorporating activities into practice. To achieve the best results, these activities should be regularly incorporated into practice routines. Tailoring activities to address specific areas of need can lead to significant improvements in clarity. It's also beneficial to gradually increase the complexity and challenge of the activities as improvements are made. Consistent practice, coupled with feedback and a focus on targeted areas, will enhance the clarity of speech over time. Detailed speaking activities on tone. This can greatly enhance the effectiveness of communication, conveying emotions, attitudes, and nuances beyond the literal meaning of words. Tone in speech influences how messages are received and interpreted by listeners. Below are the detailed activities aimed at developing a nuanced control of tone suitable for various levels of learners and contexts. Tone identification exercises. You have to recognize different tones in speech. Listen to a series of recorded sentences, each spoken with a different tone. For example, how your tone varies when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're angry, and when you're questioning. Identify the tone used in each. Discuss what vocal qualities like pitch, pace, volume contribute to each tone. Emotion-based reading aloud. Practice conveying emotions through tone. Select a neutral text and practice reading it aloud, conveying different emotions through your tone each time. Record yourself and listen back to evaluate how effectively your tone communicated the intended message. Mimicry and imitation. Develop flexibility in tone usage. Choose a few video clips of speakers with distinct tones and emotional deliveries. Try to mimic their tone as closely as possible. Focus on the changes in pitch, rhythm, and volume they use to convey their message. Scripted role playing. Use tone effectively in conversational contexts. Engage in role-playing exercises with scripted dialogues designed to be read with specific tones. For example, reassuring, skeptical, enthusiastic. This helps in understanding how tone impacts dialogue and interpersonal communication. Improvisational speaking. Adapt tone to changing contexts. Participate in improvisational speaking exercises where the topic or emotional context changes unexpectedly. This challenges you to adjust your tone on the fly, mimicking real life conversational dynamics. Storytelling with tone variation. Enhance narrative skills through tone variation. Tell a story focusing on using your tone to differentiate characters, settings, and mood shifts. This can be practiced in a group setting where feedback on the effectiveness of the tone usage is shared. Peer feedback, as usual in any other activities, here also it is going to be very helpful. Tone matching. Tone matching game. Develop acute listening and replication skills. Play a tone matching game where a sentence is spoken with a specific tone and participants try to replicate the tone as closely as possible. This can be turned into a competitive or collaborative group activity. Reflective listening and speaking. Understand the impact of tone on empathy and connection. Practice reflective listening exercises where you repeat back what someone has said, trying to match not only the content but the tone to validate their feelings and perspectives. Tone variation in public speaking. Master the use of tone for engaging public speaking. Prepare and deliver a short speech multiple times, each with a different overall tone. For example, motivational tone, somber tone, and informative tone. Record and review the speeches to analyze how tone changes the audience's perception of the content. Customizing activities for personal or professional growth. These activities can be adapted to suit personal learning goals or professional requirements, whether improving tone for better workplace communication, enhancing performance in public speaking, or developing more empathetic interpersonal communication. Focusing on tone can significantly enhance the clarity and impact of your message. Practice, feedback, and conscious adjustment are key to mastering the effective use of tone in speaking. Detailed speaking activities on pace. Focusing on the pace of speech is crucial for effective communication as it affects how well your audience can follow and understand you. Speaking too quickly can lead to confusion, while speaking too slowly might bore or frustrate your listeners. Here are several detailed speaking activities designed to help individuals master the pace of their speech, making their communication clearer and more engaging. Pace control drills. It develops the ability to consciously control the speed of your speech. Choose a short text or prepare a brief speech. Practice delivering it at different speeds. Start at your normal pace, then practice speaking slowly, and finally try speaking faster. Use a metronome app to help maintain a consistent pace during each practice session. Pause and breathe. Use pauses effectively to enhance comprehension and maintain a comfortable pace. Insert deliberate pauses at punctuation marks or natural breaks in your speech. Practice speaking a paragraph and consciously take a breath at each comma or full stop. This helps in pacing your speech and gives the listener time to process the information. Expressive reading. Improve pacing through changes in expression. Select a piece of text that contains dialogue or varying emotions. Read aloud, focusing on adjusting your pace to match the emotion or action. For example, speed up slightly during exciting parts and slow down for dramatic or important sections. The overcorrection technique. Correcting pacing issues by practicing extreme changes. If you tend to speak too fast, practice reading or speaking so slowly that it feels uncomfortable. If you are naturally slow, try speaking faster than feels natural. This helps you become more aware of your pacing and find a more balanced speed. Recording and playback is similar to the other activities that we practiced. Follow the leader game. Adapt your pace to match another speaker. Work with a partner who will read a passage at a varying pace. Your task is to read along with them, matching their pace as closely as possible. This exercise helps develop flexibility in controlling your speaking speed. Pacing with visual cues. Use visual cues to regulate speech pace. Create a set of cards with different pace instructions. For example, slow, medium, fast. Arrange them in a random order. Practice speaking or reading aloud, changing your pace according to each card. This builds the ability to adjust your pace on demand. Emotion-based pacing. Understand the impact of emotions on speech pace. Choose a text and decide on an emotion to convey. Example, excitement, sadness, anger. Practice delivering the text in a way that reflects that emotion, paying attention to how it naturally alters your pace. Reflect on how different emotions affect your speaking speed. Obtaining feedback is similar to the previous activities that we followed. The silent speech. Focus on internal pacing without vocalizing. Prepare a speech, but instead of saying it aloud, go through it in your mind. Focus on pacing. Imagine where you would pause for effect and where you might speed up or slow down. This mental practice can help improve your internal sense of timing. Mastering the pace of your speech can significantly enhance your communication effectiveness. By regularly engaging in these activities, you can develop a more controlled, engaging, and listener-friendly speaking pace. Now let us focus on speaking activities related to body language. Improving body language is essential for effective speaking and communication as it complements verbal messages and helps convey your points more powerfully. Here are detailed speaking activities designed to enhance various aspects of body language, including posture, gestures, eye contact, and facial expressions. These activities can be practiced individually, in groups, or with a coach to receive feedback and make adjustments. Mirror practice. Self-awareness of body language is very important. Stand in front of a large mirror and deliver a speech or talk. Observe your posture, gestures, facial expressions, and movements. Try to notice any habits or patterns like swaying or fidgeting and consciously adjust them to appear more confident and engaged. Video recording and review. Analyze and improve body language. Record yourself giving a speech or presentation. Watch the recording to observe your body language, noting areas for improvement such as maintaining eye contact, using gestures effectively, and controlling facial expressions. Re-record yourself implementing these improvements. The freeze game. Control and awareness of gestures. While practicing a speech, have a partner call out freeze at random intervals. When frozen, you and your partner review your pose and gestures for appropriateness and effectiveness at that moment in the speech. This helps in becoming more conscious of your body language and its impact. Emotion charades. Enhance expressive facial expressions and body language. Play a game of charades focused on expressing different emotions without speaking. Use only facial expressions and body language to convey feelings like happiness, anger, surprise, or sadness. This enhances your ability to communicate emotions non-verbally. Eye contact drill. You should improve your eye contact with the audience. Practice a speech in front of a group of people or with a partner. Make a point to establish eye contact with each person for a few seconds before moving on to the next. If practicing alone, place markers like stick notes around the room and practice making eye contact with these as you speak. Gesture matching. Align gestures with verbal messages. Prepare a list of phrases that naturally lend themselves to gestures. For example, it was this big. Practice saying these phrases while consciously incorporating a matching gesture. Focus on the timing and appropriateness of the gesture. Posture correction. Improve posture for better presentation. Begin by standing against a wall to feel what proper upright posture feels like. Practice starting your speech from this position, stepping away from the wall while trying to maintain the posture. Regularly remind yourself to check and adjust your posture throughout the day. Walking the line. Practice controlled movement while speaking. Place a line of tape on the floor. Practice your speech while walking slowly along the line, focusing on moving with purpose and poise. This helps in integrating movement with speech without appearing aimless or distracting. The power pose. This builds confidence through body language. Before your speaking practice, engage in power poses. Example, standing in a wide stance with hands on hips for a few minutes to increase feelings of confidence. Research suggests that power posing can have a psychological impact, boosting confidence. Similar to the previous activities, here also feedback is very much important from the audience. Improving body language requires mindfulness, practice, and feedback. By regularly engaging in these activities, you can develop a more commanding presence, enhance your ability to connect with your audience, and effectively reinforce your verbal messages with nonverbal cues. Activities related to structured speech. It is key to delivering clear, effective presentations and communications. Structured speech helps organize thoughts, makes information more accessible to the audience, and enhances the speaker's credibility. Here are detailed speaking activities designed to improve the ability to create and deliver structured speeches. The 3-point exercises. Practice creating speeches with a clear beginning, middle, and an end. So it's similar to writing an essay. It should have a body, it should have an introduction, body, and conclusion. Choose a topic and devise a speech that has a clear introduction. Introduction, stating the topic and your main points. Body, detailing each point with examples or explanations. And a conclusion, summarizing the main points and restating the importance of the topic. Practice delivering this speech, focusing on transitioning smoothly between sections. Elevator pitch practice. Develop concise, persuasive speech structure. Create an elevator speech for a project, idea, or product you are passionate about. The pitch should be no longer than 30 seconds and must clearly and persuasively outline what you are proposing, why it matters, and what action you want the listener to take. The persuasive speech drill. Improve the ability to structure arguments effectively. Select a debatable topic and prepare a persuasive speech that presents your stance, supporting arguments and rebuttals to potential counter-arguments. Practice delivering your speech, focusing on the logical flow of your arguments. Storytelling workshop. Enhance narrative structure in speeches. Choose a personal story that conveys a specific message or a moral. Structure your story with a clear beginning, setting the scene. Middle. It introduces a conflict or a challenge. And end. Resolving the conflict and reflecting on the moral. The story could be your own personal story or it could be that of any fellow. Practice telling your story, paying attention to pacing and how each part contributes to the overall message. Next is very interesting, the TED Talk analysis. Learn from structured speeches by experts. Watch several TED Talks on topics of interest. Analyze the structure of these talks, noting how the speakers introduce the topics, develop their ideas, and conclude their tasks. Try to identify patterns or techniques you can incorporate into your own speeches. Similar to the previous exercises, here also feedback is very much important. The impromptu speech challenge. Practice quickly organizing thoughts into a structured speech. Have a partner or group that provides you with random topics. On the spot, create a brief speech with basic structure of introduction, body, and conclusion on the given topic. This exercises your ability to think quickly and organize your thoughts coherently under pressure. The outline practice. Master speech outlining for better structure. Before writing or delivering a speech, practice creating detailed outlines that include your main thesis, key points, and a conclusion. Use this outline as a roadmap for your speech to ensure it follows a logical, structured path. The visual aid exercise. Integrate visual aids into structured speeches. Prepare a speech that includes the use of visual aids like slides, charts, videos to support your points. Practice integrating these aids seamlessly into your speech, ensuring they complement the structure and enhance understanding rather than distract. The revision session. Refine speech structure through revision. Record yourself delivering a speech. Then listen to or watch the recording to identify areas where the structure could be improved. Revise your speech to address these areas, focusing on clearer transitions, better organization of ideas, or a more impactful conclusion. These activities encourage practice in creating and delivering structured speeches that engage and inform audiences effectively. By regularly engaging in these exercises, speakers can develop their ability to organize their thoughts and present them in a coherent, compelling manner. Now let us focus on speaking activities related to simplicity. Simplicity in speech is crucial for clear and effective communication. It helps ensure that your message is easily understood by a wide audience, regardless of their background or familiarity with the subject matter. Many times they say, brevity is wit. If you are in a position to convey complex information using simple words, that shows you are witty enough. Okay, that is what is most important. Here are detailed speaking activities designed to hone your ability to convey complex ideas simply and clearly. The simplification game. Practice breaking down complex ideas into simple terms. Choose a complex topic you are knowledgeable about. Attempt to explain this topic as if you were talking to someone with no background knowledge in the field, using only the simplest terms and analogies. Many times they say, if you are in a position to explain something to a small kid, it shows that you are a very good teacher, or even a person who can explain things with clarity. Avoid jargon and technical language. Record yourself, listen back, and see if you can simplify further. Jargon busting. Eliminate jargons and technical language from your speech. Write a short speech on a specialized topic, then go through it and identify any jargon or technical terms. Replace these with simpler, everyday language that conveys the same meaning. Practice delivering the revised speech and seek feedback on clarity from someone outside your field. Again, it depends on the type of audience you are going to address, because many times your audience may not be all specialized in a particular field. They could be general audience also. If you are giving a general talk, it's better to avoid all these jargons and technical terms. If you are addressing a set of people who are specialized in a particular field, then using those jargons is acceptable. The one sentence challenge objective. Convey the essence of a message in a single sentence. Just like a film title, just like how a film title denotes or guides us regarding the theme of the film or the story of the film, similarly, the topic of the message should be conveyed in one particular sentence or a few words. Choose a topic and write a brief speech about it. Then challenge yourself to condense the main message of your speech into one clear and concise sentence. This exercise helps focus on the core message and eliminate unnecessary details. Storytelling with props. Use physical objects to simplify abstract concepts. Many times, audio-visual imagery will be very helpful. Select an abstract concept or complex topic to explain. Find a physical object that can act as a metaphor or symbol for your topic. Use this prop to help explain the concept in a simple, tangible way during your speech. Peer teaching. Explain complex ideas in simple terms to a peer. Many times students are more comfortable in getting a concept or a theory being taught by their fellow classmates. They find it more comfortable to understand the concepts when it is taught by a peer or a friend of theirs. Partner with someone who has little or no knowledge of a particular subject you are familiar with. Try to teach them a concept from this subject. Use only simple language and examples they can relate to. Encourage questions and use their feedback to further simplify your explanations. Many times, students are very hesitant to ask questions to teachers, that too in the presence of their classmates. So, during such a situation, especially with those students who are introverts, who are not comfortable in asking question to teachers in front of their classmates, they can adapt this particular technology or methodology. They can utilize this methodology. The analogy creation objective. Develop analogies to simplify complex ideas. Identify a complex idea you want to communicate. Brainstorm analogies that relate this idea to common experiences or objects familiar to most people. When it comes to learning or understanding, when it is associated with intertextual elements, let's say if you want to teach or if you want to understand a concept, if you correlate it with some real life incidents or with real life practice, you will remember it better and for a longer time. Practice incorporating these analogies into your speech to make the ideas more accessible. The minimalist speech. Deliver a speech using minimal words without losing meaning. Many times what happens when you speak, when people listen to a lot of words, lot of information, they tend to forget which is the main information. So you have to use minimal ideas and minimal words so that the listener will get to know what is the main theme or main idea about. Activity. Write a speech, then challenge yourself to cut down the word count by at least 50% while retaining the core message and value. You can even practice precise writing. In precise writing, you actually reduce the given content to 1/3, that is 33%. This forces you to prioritize simplicity and clarity over verbal. Similar to the previous activities, here also feedback is very much important. The non-expert review. Ensure your speech is understandable to non-experts. Share a recorded speech or written transcript with friends or family members who are not familiar with the topic. Ask them to highlight parts they found confusing or too complex. Use this feedback to revise your speech, focusing on simplifying those parts. The elevator test. Practice concise and simple speech under time pressure. Imagine you are in an elevator with someone important to your field or cause. and you have time only until the elevator ride ends to explain your idea or project. Prepare and practice a speech that is simple, concise, and compelling enough to deliver in this short time frame. Many times the attention span of the viewers is less than 2 or 3 seconds or maximum 10 seconds. So in the 10 seconds, you have to convey the most important information rather than beating around the bush. By regularly engaging in these activities, speakers can enhance their ability to communicate complex ideas in simple, straightforward terms, making their speeches more accessible and engaging for all audiences. Now let us focus on speaking activities related to key messages. Now let us focus on activities related to visual aids. Incorporating visual aids into your presentation can significantly enhance understanding, retention, and engagement. Visual aids such as slides, charts, graphs, and videos can clarify complex information and make your message more memorable, because students or listeners can comprehend the audio visual technology or audio visual methodology better than just verbal lecture. Here, many a times, the best example could be when you watch a movie, you tend to remember it for a longer time than if the same movie story is narrated to you. Here are detailed speaking activities designed to improve your ability to effectively use visual aids in your speeches. Visual aid design. Create clear and impactful visual aids. Select a topic for a short presentation and identify key points that could be enhanced with visual aids. Design visual aids for these points, focusing on simplicity, relevance, and visual impact. Practice delivering your presentation, making sure the visual aids complement your speech without overshadowing it. Many times, lecture will be full of PPTs. Okay, you should not outdo the PPTs or the visual aids. It should just supplement it, or it should not supplement it. It should complement it. The minimalist slide exercise. Simplify slides to their essence. Review your previous presentation and challenge yourself to redesign the slides by removing as much text as possible. Again, in your slides, in your PPT, should be in the form of bullet points, in the form of one words or one phrase. The PPT should not be in the form of paragraphs. That is the mistake that many people do. In the presentation, the PPT will be in the form of paragraphs. No, the PPT should consist of bullets, and each bullet should have a keyword or a key phrase. Replace text with images, charts, or graphs that convey the same information more effectively. Practice presenting with these minimalist slides, ensuring your verbal explanation fill in the details. Visual sequence storytelling. Use a sequence of images to tell a story. Create a presentation that tells a story or explains a process using only images and simple diagrams arranged in a sequence. Many times, if you want to explain any concept or a theory, if you are framing a story around that theory, listeners will be able to understand it better and remember it for a longer duration. Practice narrating the story or a process using the visual sequence to guide your audience through the narrative or explanation. The no words challenge. Communicate a message using only visual aids. Design a series of visual aids to convey a specific message or piece of information without using any spoken words. After presenting the visuals to an audience, ask them to interpret the message. This can help you understand how effectively your visuals communicate on their own. Many times, the audience may interpret the message according to their own perspective. So it even leads to a broader perspective about a particular topic. Compare and contrast with visuals. Highlight differences and similarities with visual aids. Create a presentation that compares and contrasts two concepts, items, or ideas. Use visual aids like side-by-side comparisons, Venn diagrams, or before and after images to visually highlight these differences and similarities as you discuss them. Visual aid critique session. Receive feedback on the effectiveness of visual aids. Present a speech with visual aids to a group or mentor and ask for specific feedback on the clarity, relevance, and impact of each visual. It's always important to show your work to somebody else. Okay, so that many times we may overlook our own mistakes, whereas the other people can find out what are the mistakes are so that we can rectify. Use this feedback to rectify your visual aids for greater effectiveness. Interactive visuals workshop. Engage the audience with interactive visual aids. Incorporate interactive elements into your visual aids such as live polls, quizzes, or interactive diagrams. So nowadays we can integrate the online and offline content. Okay, let's say whenever you are delivering a lecture, or whenever you're even listening to some lecture, through usage of online classes, you can even participate in live polls, quizzes, or interactive diagrams. Practice presenting while facilitating audience interaction with these visuals and observe how this engagement enhances the communication of your key message. The visual metaphor exercise. Use visual metaphors to convey complex ideas. Identify a complex idea in your presentation and create a visual metaphor that represents this idea. Practice explaining the metaphor in your speech, using it to help the audience grasp the concept more intuitively. Data visualization practice. Make a data more accessible and engaging. Take a set of data relevant to your presentation topic and create a visual representation of this idea. Example, graph, chart, infographic. You can use all these methodologies whenever you are speaking so that the listener will be able to understand what you are speaking in a better manner. Practice explaining the data through your visual aid, focusing on making the information clear and meaningful to your audience. Similar to the previous activities, here also one should consider the feedback of the listeners. These activities can help you develop the skills needed to create and use visual aids effectively, ensuring they enhance rather than detract from your message. By practicing with a focus on clarity, relevance, and engagement, you can make your presentations more impactful and memorable. Now let us proceed towards speaking activities related to interactive elements. Here we'll be discussing about the activities related to relevance. Connect your topic to the audience's interest or experiences. Let us focus on activities related to eye contact and personalization. Make eye contact and address the audience in a manner that feels personal and inclusive. When you're maintaining eye contact with the audience feels involved in this conversation or lecture. Otherwise, you will be talking to somebody else or you will be talking to the wall and the audience will be in their own field. Detailed speaking activities related to posture. Incorporating gestures in your speaking engagements can significantly enhance the impact of your message, making it more engaging and memorable for your audience. Here's a detailed guide to speaking activities designed to improve your use of gestures. Gesture mapping exercise. Plan and practice using gestures that complement your message. Write a short speech or select a passage to read aloud. Go through the text and mark specific points where a gesture could naturally emphasize a word or phrase. Practice delivering your speech with these planned gestures. Focus on how each gesture can reinforce what you are saying. Mirror practice for gesture awareness. Increase awareness of your natural gestures and refine them. Stand in front of a mirror and deliver a speech, paying close attention to gestures you naturally use. Observe whether your gesture appears forced or natural, and whether they align with the emphasis of your message. Adjust your gestures to ensure they are open, welcoming, and emphasize your points effectively. Many times when you are standing in front of the mirror and delivering a speech, you can see for yourself regarding what errors you are committing and how you can improve on your body language and gestures. Gesture restriction exercise. Understand the impact of gestures on communication. Deliver a speech twice to a small audience or a recording device. First, do it with your own hands held by your sides, restricting any gesture use. Then deliver it again, this time using gestures freely. Compare the two versions to reflect on how gestures affect the delivery and reception of your message. So through this comparison, you will get to know whether your lecture is effective or whether your speaking is effective with gestures or without gestures. The silent speech challenge. Convey a message through gestures alone. Choose a simple story or message to communicate. Attempt to convey this message to an audience using only gestures without speaking. This activity helps you to understand the power of non-verbal communication and refine your ability to use gestures effectively. Gestures reinforces your point, reinforces your statement. Similar to the previous activities, here also feedbacks from the audience is very much important. Video analysis of gestures. You can critique and improve your gesture use. When you record yourself delivering a speech or presentation, watch the recording with a focus on analyzing your gestures. Look for gestures that seem out of place, too repetitive, or distracting, and consider how you can make them more purposeful and aligned with your message. The emotion expression exercise. Use gestures to express emotions clearly. Write down a list of emotions such as excitement, frustration, or happiness. Practice expressing each emotions through gestures alone in front of a mirror or an audience. This helps you become more expressive and aware of how your body language can convey feelings. The storytelling gesture game. Integrating gestures into storytelling. Tell a story focusing on integrating gestures that help illustrate the story's events, characters, and emotions. Aim for your gestures to add depth and visual interest to the narrative, making it more engaging for your audience. Slow motion gesture. Refine the fluidity and precision of your gestures. Choose a few key gestures for practice. Perform each gesture slowly, focusing on the movements beginning, middle, and end. This slow motion practice helps improve your control over your gestures, making them more deliberate and impactful. The impromptu gesture drill. Develop the ability to spontaneously use appropriate gestures. Engage in impromptu speaking exercises, focusing on incorporating gestures naturally as you speak. Select random topics or have them provided by a partner. As you talk about each topic, consciously use gestures to enhance your communication, making them relevant and natural. By engaging in these activities, you'll become more adept at using gestures to complement and enhance your verbal communication, making your speeches more dynamic, engaging, and effective. Now, let us proceed towards speaking activities related to personal stories. Sharing personal experiences or anecdotes that audience can relate to. When you narrate your own personal story, the audience will get connected to you. Okay, they feel more empathetic towards what you are stating. Sharing personal stories and anecdotes can significantly enhance the relatability and impact of your presentations, helping you connect more deeply with your audience. Here are detailed speaking activities designed to improve your ability to incorporate personal stories effectively into your speeches. Story inventory exercise. Compile a diverse collection of personal stories. Reflect on various experiences from your life, including successes, failures, humorous incidents, and challenging moments. Write a brief summary of each experience, noting the key message or lesson from the story. This inventory will serve as a resource when looking for relevant stories to include in your speeches. So it's like it acts as a database. Okay, you list out the highlights of your life, and whenever a situation comes, a relatable situation, a topic, you can use those stories in your related speech. Relatability workshop. Enhance the relatability of your personal stories. Choose a story from your inventory and practice telling it to a small group. Afterward, ask for feedback on how relatable they found the story. Use the feedback to adjust the way you present your stories, focusing on universal themes or emotions that resonate with a wider audience. It's always better you choose some contemporary issue or contemporary event, even if it is not from your personal life, at least from the current events that is happening in the world. If you use those incidences or story, audience will be able to relate it to in a better manner. Story structure drill. Master the structure of effective storytelling. Break down your personal story into the classic narrative structure, setting the scene, introducing a conflict or challenge, the climax where the main event or turning point occurs, and the resolution, including what you learned or how you changed. Practice telling your story with this structure to make it more compelling and memorable. Emotional connection exercise. Foster emotional connections through storytelling. Choose a personal story that evokes strong emotions. Practice telling this story, focusing on vividly describing your feelings and reactions throughout the experience. Pay attention to your tone of voice, facial expressions, and gestures to enhance the emotional delivery. The detailing game. Use details to bring your stories to life. Select a personal anecdote and identify areas where you can add specific details to make the story more vivid and engaging. You can use descriptions of the setting, people involved, and sensory details. Practice telling the story with these added details and observe how they enhance the narrative. You should also be aware of the audience's background so that you will be able to narrate stories related to the audience. It could be their demographies, like whether they are teenagers, professionals, or retired people. Similar to the previous activities, even in storytelling also you should get the feedback of the audience, for effective discussion. Most importantly, the moral of the story is very important. Explicitly state the moral or lesson at the end. Practice integrating this takeaway seamlessly into the conclusion of your story, ensure that it aligns with the overall message of the speech. The contrast technique. Highlight growth or change through storytelling. Choose a personal story that showcases a significant change or growth in your character, beliefs, or skills. Structure your story to highlight the contrast between before and after. This technique can be particularly effective for illustrating the impact of learning experiences or life lessons. Incorporating personal stories into your speeches not only makes your content more engaging, but also helps establish credibility and trust with your audience. By practicing these activities, you will become more adept at selecting, structuring, and delivering stories that resonate with your listeners and reinforce your message. Now let us proceed towards speaking activities related to emotional appeal. Incorporating emotional appeal into your speeches can significantly enhance audience engagement and connection, making your message more memorable and impactful. Audience empathy building. Foster empathy by connecting your emotions to universal experiences. Think of an emotionally charged story you would like to share. Identify the universal emotions or experiences within your story. For example, loss, triumph, love. If you take the example of any canonical literary works, till today it is relevant because of its universal meaning. Anybody could relate to the characters of Shakespeare or Kalidasa or any prominent writer. Share personal vulnerabilities to create a deeper emotional connection. Choose a story that involves a personal challenge, mistake, or vulnerability. Practice telling this story in a way that openly shares your emotions and what you learned from this experience. The sensory metaphor exercise. Use sensory language in metaphors to enhance descriptions. Create metaphors that include sensory details for various abstract concepts or emotions. For example, anger bubbled up like a scalding broth. Practice incorporating these metaphors into your speeches to add depth and vividness to your descriptions. Day in the life narratives. You can create scenarios that mirror the everyday experiences of your audience. Choose a common day in the life scenario that reflects the general experiences of your audience members. Develop a narrative around this scenario, highlighting moments that are likely to elicit a shared understanding or emotional response. Practice delivering this narrative, focusing on the details that make it relatable. Problem solution scenarios. Address common challenges faced by your audience. List out several challenges or problems your audience members might face. For each, develop a scenario that not only presents the problem but also walks through a solution or coping strategy. This approach not only makes your content relatable but also provides value by offering practical advice or insight. What if simulations? Engage the audience's imagination with hypothetical situations. Create what if scenarios that relate to the interests or concerns of your audience. These should be engaging and thought-provoking but grounded in the realm of possibility. Discuss these scenarios in speech, encouraging the audience to consider their reactions or how they might navigate these situations. Now let us proceed towards speaking activities related to transitions. Ensure smooth transition between points to maintain flow and keep the audience engaged. Mastering transitions in speeches is crucial for maintaining flow and keeping the audience engaged from start to finish. Transitions act as bridges between points, helping to weave your speech into a cohesive whole. Here are detailed speaking activities designed to improve your use of transitions. Transition signpost exercise. Practice using explicit signposts to guide your audience through your speech. Write a short speech and identify where each new point or section begins. Before each point, insert a clear transition phrase that signals a shift or continuation of thought. For example, moving on to, in addition to, contrary to. Practice delivering your speech, paying particular attention to how these signposts clarify the structure for your audience. The bridge building activity. Create smooth, logical bridges between points. List the main points of your speech. For each pair of consecutive points, write a sentence or two that connects the end of one point to the beginning of the next, focusing on logical or thematic links. Practice integrating these bridges into your speech to ensure a seamless flow of ideas. Analogies and metaphors as transitions. Identify the key themes of your speech, develop analogies or metaphors that fit these themes and can serve to transition between points. For example, if your speech is about personal growth, you might use the metaphor of a journey to transition between stages of development. Practice weaving these into your speech to enhance engagement and clarity. The pause and reflect technique. Use strategic pauses to underscore transitions. As you practice your speech, insert a deliberate pause before and after each transition. During these pauses, you might briefly summarize what was just discussed before signaling the next point. This technique gives the audience time to process information and anticipate what's coming next. The meanwhile exercise objective. Incorporate transitional narratives or examples. For speeches that tell a story or follow narrative structure, practice using transitional phrases that move the story through time or pace. For example, meanwhile, back at, before we continue, let's consider. This can help maintain narrative flow and keep your audience engaged. The contrast and compare method. Use comparison or contrast to transition between points. When moving between points that are either very similar or different, explicitly highlight these relationships. For example, unlike, similar to, etc. This clarifies the structure of your argument and helps the audience follow along. The echo technique. Echo key words or phrases to create cohesive transitions. Choose a key word or phrase from the end of one point and repeat it at the beginning of the next as a transition. This repetition can create a subtle, effective bridge between ideas. Practice using this technique to create a sense of continuity throughout your speech. By focusing on these activities, you will be able to craft transitions that not only enhance the flow of your speech but also reinforce your key messages, making your presentations more coherent and compelling for your audience. Now let us proceed towards speaking activities focused on visualization to prepare for a successful speech. Mental rehearsal. You should strengthen your familiarity and comfort with your speech through mental practice. Find a quiet place where you can relax without interruptions. Close your eyes and imagine yourself delivering your speech from start to finish. Visualize the setting, the audience, and yourself speaking confidently. Focus on the flow of your speech, your gestures, and making eye contact with the audience. Repeat this exercise daily leading up to your speech. Positive outcome visualization. This boosts confidence by visualizing positive reactions from your audience. During your visualization sessions, not only picture yourself delivering your speech flawlessly, but also imagine the audience's positive reactions. Visualize them nodding, smiling, clapping, or approaching you afterward with compliments or questions. Feel the satisfaction of knowing you have made an impact. Now let us proceed towards the activities related to mindset shift. You should view public speaking as an opportunity to share valuable information rather than a performance. Adopting a positive mindset towards public speaking can transform anxiety into enthusiasm, making the experience more rewarding for both the speaker and the audience. Viewing public speaking as an opportunity to share knowledge rather than as a performance can significantly reduce nervousness and improve the effectiveness of your communication. The value identification exercise. Recognize the value and purpose behind your speech. Write down the key message of your speech and why it matters to the audience. Reflect on how your audience will benefit from hearing your speech. This exercise helps shift your focus from performance anxiety to importance of your message. The conversation approach. View your speech as a conversation rather than a performance. Practice your speech as if you were having a one-on-one conversation with a friend. Focus on expressing your ideas clearly and authentically without worrying about the perfection. This can make the actual speech feel more like sharing information with interested listeners rather than performing. The gratitude reflection. Cultivate gratitude for the opportunity to speak. Reflect on the opportunity to share your knowledge and the effort it took to get to this point. Consider the people who supported you and the work you have put into developing your speech. Acknowledging these can shift your view of public speaking to one of gratitude and purpose. By engaging in these activities, you can foster a mindset that views public speaking as a valuable opportunity to share information and connect with others, thereby reducing anxiety and enhancing your overall effectiveness as a communicator.